everyone to the PYRESWAP show, and I gotta train to look over here now. And this test looks pretty good, to be honest. And I like it zoomed out. We still have the whole Korean screen here. Honestly, it makes the fake room look even bigger. Wouldn't you guys agree? Wouldn't you guys agree the fake parlor room looks even bigger with the camera in this position? It's like we added square footage to this non-room. I feel like you guys aren't appreciating that, okay? Do you guys see how we're fucking scaling? Okay. Anyways, so how's everyone doing today? Can you guys hear me? General chat. Audio check. In the PYRESWAP Discord? No? Okay. Well, anyways, well, guys, I hear that Bitcoin is above 90K again. So that means one of two things. It's going to keep going up or it's going to go back down. I don't want to sound too much like a prophet here that has all the answers. But I do know that it's either going to keep going up or it's going to go back down. Generally speaking, I was talking about this before. I guess like whether it crosses 100 again, this could mark that it's like the halfway point of quote unquote summer, or who the fuck knows what will happen. Because the fact of the matter is that it did not double its previous all-time high. Isn't that right? It only went up maybe like 50% higher than its all-time high, right? It went from 69K to 109K. I guess that's more than 50%, but it's like that's only 167% of a gain. Do you guys know what I mean? Do you guys know what I mean? Yeah, like in theory, there are things on the stock market that have outperformed that. In which case, by the way, that might just be how it works. The as the halvening curve affects less and less token getting emitted, in theory, the halvening cycle should affect it less and less. I don't know if I said this last time, but the crypto summer, crypto winter cycle is not so much steered by the Bitcoin halvening as much as it's steered by human iniquity, stupidity, and greed. Does that make sense? Maybe it doesn't. But we'll get there. Anyways, so I was listening to a podcast with Mr. Beast on Diary of the CEO because I've been generating these AI images, which I'm going to show you a few of them here in a minute. And as I go through these iterations, it's the type of work where sometimes when you're just working on getting one parameter right, you can listen to a podcast while you work and it doesn't denigrate your productivity. So I was listening to it, and basically the feedback I was getting was that I have to assume Mr. Beast knows what he's talking about when it comes to content, and how it felt to me is that we're doing the right thing with our content. And most importantly, in order for this product to stand out, we have to be doing something that nobody else is doing. Does that make sense? Again, do I need to remind everybody what the guiding principles and the guiding vision of our marketing strategy is? Okay, right. Oh, maybe they can't hear me. Check.
You should be okay on your phone.
Okay, yeah, my phone is acting weird. I literally just dropped right there. Hang on. I should. Okay. Okay. Well, I appreciate that. All right. So, anyways, more on that real soon. I want to at least show you guys some progress pics on our LoRa. For those of you who know what that is. So, I guess, Mr. Producer, we can in fact. Oh, look at that! Look at that gorgeous face. You guys see that picture? Can you guys see the screen? I believe we're looking at C right now. So the angles we're looking at here, this one is called, I think, letter C or possibly letter F. Legitimately, this is an angle of the face. It'll get mirrored eventually, but this is the one that's kind of gonna get trained on. Sorry, what do I mean to say here? This is an angle. This is like an official angle of face that this image right here is a 512 by 512. I will literally, in I guess a few minutes, be scaling this as well as a bunch of other images up to 1024 by 1024, which is the resolution you train LoRa's on. So, in fact, can you go through the rest of the alphabet here? There you go. There's another one. That's dead on, but it's also other, like there's other versions of that face as well. There's that one obviously. I mean, they'll have a different letter of the alphabet based on where they are. But you're as you guys can tell, we're zooming in on that angle of the face, right? You can go there's another angle of the face, and I think another one. There might be, yep, there's the last one. And then if you guys want, we can look at the body angles as well. What's called the multi-view. This one, these images are a bit larger, so you might need to change zoom. They're all like, I want to say 3072, something like that in resolution. But these also have a system, and I guess I could just write it. These have a system, and the nomenclature is like this. So the one with the faces has A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Can you guys read that? Let me just redo that then. I have glasses here. Fantastic. So for the faces, we have 9 of them, but for the bodies, we really just have the A, B, C, D, E, F. So not every, let's see if I can tilt that glare away. Okay, so not every one of these body angles do we get all 6 poses from. Here I actually told you the ones we get. Can you pull up 2495? Yeah, it'll be the number in the name in the following. It might say comfy as the first word, but then it'll be 2495. You guys are pretty chatty today. Always nice to see you all excited. Okay, 2495. So here, for this particular one, we would take B and D from it. So legitimately, we don't take all of them. We literally only liked B, which is the top middle, and then D, which is actually the backside right there. You can if you want to zoom in on them, but like, teach their own. If this is a hard app to zoom in on, we can just skip through them, to be honest. Oh, there we go. That's very nice. Very zoomed in. Okay, so go up. Just go scroll up there. Yeah, that's B right there. So that right there, that angle of face of B we like. The first one right there is A, and A, we might like, there's a few of them that A is good, but overall, I just hope you guys can see like the increase in quality between this one and the ones we used to show you. I don't know if you guys remember this when I was showing you the first fucking time, but this AI process of getting these multi-views, I like what you're doing right now if you just want to scan through them. If you guys can see, we get like these AI generated body angles. Do you guys see that? Legitimately, you get these 6 angles. Right there, okay, obviously he has like a cloak cape that just got like shredded by the AI. Do you guys see that? Like it got knifed right there. We can in fact fix that. We just go through, we actually do it in Mid-Journey. We go through Mid-Journey and we'll be like, hey, regenerate this part right here where his belt is showing and his legs are showing. And it'll just fucking fill it in. It literally does a good job at that. So legitimately, I don't really care that much about the, back a few weeks ago, I was freaking out about that. I'm like, oh no, we need the cape to work, but no, we don't. So like, I just fixed it in manually. I'll have that fixed in today, and then we legitimately have we use B and D for 2495. We use D and F for 2536. I guess you guys don't care about seeing all these details. I'll just show you the final one when we get there. I think when I have the LoRa trained, there'll be way more. Yeah. It'll be It'll just make more sense when it's all done, I guess. But I'll show you guys the final. I was like scrambling to get the final set ready for you guys. But I think that like you guys just seeing the process is I think engaging for you all. I want you to know something. When I was originally planning the timeline for this, I thought it would take me a week to get all the content. It obviously took me a lot longer than a week. But I want you to know that this process which we built for generating our protagonist this allows us to crush content marketing in ways that the rest of Web3 could only dream of. Does that make sense? Yeah. Oh, my t-shirt, this one. Do you know what this is? Abuelito, do you know what this is? Do you guys know what this symbol is? Okay. Does Abuelito know? Okay. This is the East India Company. As you guys are aware, I'm a bit of a historian. Yeah, I'm a bit of an economic and financial historian. So the East India Company, I think, is a very remarkable piece of world economic history. Does that make sense to you guys? Mr. Producer, you've heard of the East India Company before? Of course he has. Mr. Producer lived in the UK once, and I think in the UK and in India, the East India Company is I guess you would call it legendary. I want to say they still have that. Yeah. Oh yeah, that's great. It's also part of the Pirates of the Caribbean. Jack Sparrow, I believe, has warrants out there for impersonating officers in the East India Company or something like that. I think that was the charge, which is super fucking funny. And do you guys want to talk a little history? Because I mean, okay. The East India Company is also related to the parts of banking history that matter to Web3. So if you guys want to know why the fuck should you care about what the East India Company is, there was once, a long time ago, and I'm going to tell us like a story, a dream called America, okay? Once upon a time, there was a dream called America. And it was a bunch of settlers from the old Europe, and they just kind of like sailed west with nothing but a song in their heart, and they just crashed all along the eastern seaboard of North America, as we call it today, right? And where they ended up were initially called colonies, right? The first one, I believe, was called Massachusetts Bay Colony, like at least is what in the English-speaking part of it, right? And the Massachusetts Bay Colony, I think, was settled in like the 1600s, at least by 1690 for sure. And so people lived in the North America for like, sorry, people. Wow, okay, Europeans lived in North America for, I guess, over 100 years before, you know, new countries were being founded here, as it were, right? At least countries that Europe chose to recognize, right? What I'm getting at here is that because the systems in Europe that were being departed from were feudal, the notion of property rights wasn't exactly like carved out yet. Do you guys know what I mean when I say property rights? Who here knows what property rights means? Okay, so there was a guy called John Locke. He was a UK philosopher. He was a British philosopher, possibly even an English philosopher. And he was also around the 16th century. And John Locke, he's kind of like essential to what you would call classical liberalism. And his whole argument is that where do rights come from? Well, he says the rights of life, liberty, and property. He says these are your three essential rights, life, liberty, and property, and they are not bestowed upon you from the government, rather they are bestowed upon you from God. Does that make sense? So this was John Locke's central argument, that God is what grants you rights. It is not the government that grants you rights. Does that make sense, everybody? You don't need to believe in God to wrap your head around this. You get what I'm saying? But this was John Locke's central argument. Should I write his name on the board? Do you guys want me to go professor mode? Yeah. Anyways, so before this, well done, Mr. Bruiser. Anyways, so before this, the type of governments that were in Europe, they didn't really have this notion of public property. Does that make sense? Like there wasn't like the idea that the public owns the property. Does that make sense? So what they had was they had like just private property, But then they had double rights. They had they had royal rights, and then I guess we'd have common rights. So in the United Kingdom, or I guess what was it? I guess what at this point was the British Empire. The monarch had rights besides what the common had. Does that make sense? So the monarch could levy taxes. The monarch could declare war. The monarch, I think, can still seize property in the UK. I don't think it's ever done anymore because they just emulated public property similar to the United States. But this was like the standard. So when you're walking down the street in, I guess, London on Bond Street, right? So if you're walking down Bond Street, or what's the other one called? Okay, and there's more than one street in Bond thing. But let's say you're walking down Bond Street in London. The other one I know is the one where it's number 10. It's the one that they have the what's it called? Number 10. It's the one where they have like the building. The cap. Downing, yes, 10 Downing, and those are the only two streets in London I know. Bond Street and Downing Street. Anyways, okay, so if you're walking down Bond Street, it's not like a public road, it's His Majesty's road, His Majesty's Street, right? Or Downing Street is His Majesty's Street, right? Or Her Majesty's, depending what year you're talking here. Does that make sense? Abbey Road, okay, yes, indeed, the one with the Beatles album, yes, indeed. That's 3 then, that's 3. Okay, guys, we're 3 for 3 on London roads. Yeah, really, I mean, like, that's basically like being a native, right? You're already posh, if you know that, you know what I mean? You're posh. Anyways, okay. So, the royals could, like, own things and then also levy taxes, does that make sense? So, like, the royal bank was, like, the king's bank, does that make sense? It wasn't like, it didn't belong to the fucking people of England, it belonged to the fucking king. Does that make sense? Because the people also belong to the king. Does that make sense, everybody? So, in the United States, when they were like figuring out how to like run a republic, because it's like a pretty, other than the fact that they had those Venetian trade republics, this is like a new idea, they would be doing stuff like launching a bank funded by taxes, but then be selling stock in it to private citizens. Does that make sense? It would be like if you could buy stock in the Federal Reserve right now. Does that make sense? Like the Federal Reserve stock could arguably be traded on the NASDAQ. By the way, it's not. Are you guys aware? The Federal Reserve is not traded. Just so. The point of it is, people like Alexander Hamilton, the guy in the $10 bill, he was like the Secretary of the Treasury while also owning stock in the Bank of New York. He was lending money to himself. Yeah, anyways, I'm not here to trash Hamilton, but people didn't really know what was a conflict of interest back then. Does that make sense? People did not know. So the point of it is that in this same span of time, there was an organization called the East India Company. And the East India Company was literally a private company. It's got this sweet logo. Let me just copy it off my shirt real quick. Here we go. Right? The East India Company, it looks so kind of occult, but it's not. This is literally like the equivalent of like, you know, the Coca-Cola logo or whatever. Anyways, this was literally a private company. It was like funded by like a handful of guys, but then a few decades after its inception, they were granted a monopoly to like everything in the fucking Indian Ocean by the crown of the British Empire. So legitimately, at one point, the East India Company, they had over 250,000 soldiers that just worked for the East India Company. At the same time, the crown had like 100,000. So like the East India Company, as a corporation, rivaled the military power of the British Empire itself. Does that make sense? Like legitimately, they had some political tension here and there, but it was kind of like the UK delegated management of India to a fucking private corporation and just kind of like, they were doing their own thing, like fighting against France and stuff like that, or, you know, worrying about the war in the US, or maybe not, but Anyways, the reason this fucking matters is because that same conflict of interest, this same type of figuring out how you can share ownership and how you can't, that ended up shaping how banking developed between the years 1812 and 1913 in the United States. And if you guys have been listening to my streams, that century is what's most important for understanding how DeFi works. If you understand how banking worked in the United States between 1812 and 1913, I drank too much pre-workout, I think. Anyways, if you understand that, okay. Anyways, somebody brought up my t-shirt, so, okay, well, anyways. I wanted to, of course, have the movie poster done by now, but I've been saying that for like 2 weeks. But I think I should have it soon. Yeah, I would say that I'm over, like, I'm almost done. Yeah, I literally have gotten almost done now with a very, very high standard of output. And yeah, I've been pushed towards pragmatism by a lot of people. So that's what I'm doing. Yeah, I'm just getting it done. And worst case scenario, once we get the actual content output, it'll be fucking fine. Holy shit. Anyways, I hope you guys are not sad. Yeah, are you guys okay? Is everybody's mental health okay? We're gonna make it. Yeah. Listening to the Mr. Beast interview has made me more bullish because he said that literally the reason he got to where he got to was being tunnel vision and stubborn. Yeah, okay. Deal. Does that make sense? Yeah. Like, how did you get to where you got to? From being focused and stubborn. Okay, I'll do the same thing. Yeah. And then also, what he called the purple elephant effect. This is a good face. Yeah, you guys see that face right there? Olesio, would you not agree the face of a protagonist? Yeah, you can cycle through them. The faces are the good ones, right? Yeah. So all of the ones that you see will also mirror them. So like, not only do you see this, like, you know, if I look this way, it's the same. Yeah, so if I look this way, it's the same. You'll also see the other side of the face. No, if I look this way, it's the same. Yeah, I'm kind of sounding it out. Yeah, he just did it right there, didn't he? Well, Alessio, yes. Okay, and thank you, Mr. Producer. Okay, I appreciate that you think it's perfect. And Alessio, by the way, I was called a perfectionist when I was showing this internally as well. Here's the thing, Alessio. This guy, this protagonist, Fergus Fenbrook, I'm not just committed to him to getting to peg. I'm committing to him for 10 fucking books. Does that make sense? Thank you for that, by the way. Yeah, I appreciate that you guys like it so much. I did work very hard on it to the point of insanity like I do everything else. But again, we now have a fucking finished face. Does that make sense? The point that I'm getting at here, is every single error that happens in the LoRa stage, every error, when you carry it forward, it will grow exponentially. Does that make sense? So I want you to understand, my goal is not just to show you guys snippets of this fucking protagonist for the rest of the time, but rather that I'm going to show this fucking story to 1 million fucking people. Does that make sense? 1 million people are going to hear this story. Let's make that the fucking goal, right? And if I show it to 1 million fucking people, then all the errors that I make are going to expand and be exponential as well. Does that make sense? So if the goal is to build something that'll truly manifest the exponent, then every fucking... I want you guys to know something. Like, when we did that for the development of PYRESWAP the DEX, some of the errors we made that we just like, fuck it, we'll figure it out later, some of them are still with us, and the costs have been exponential. Does that make sense? Like, us having a 0.7 swap fee, right? I thought we could lower that later, but we get a reduced amount of arbitrage volume. Does that make sense? Which means that we get a reduced amount of IWV yield, which is like the whole fucking point. Does that make sense? So like this whole time, we have been operating at maybe like 30 to 40% of the volume we should be getting. Does that make sense? So like us glazing over that detail that became locked in. We could not change it later because I was like, fuck it, let's just launch, let's launch. And anyways, you guys get it now. But like also, you know, here's your fucking product. Like I'm not trying to grow old doing this and never fucking completing it. I'm trying to, you know, the way that I look at it and the way that I motivate myself is that like this is not about my bag or about your bag. It's more that like if somebody doesn't figure out how to like market in Web3 for real, then Web3 is never gonna unscrew its head from its ass. Does that make sense? Even the people that are building good shit besides the circus, because I do agree that other people are building good shit, it doesn't get marketed the right way. Because people don't, the thing that we're building with Learn Pyre, this I guess what you call an experience funnel, other projects need to do this too. Like in order to really get people to understand what it is. Examples, Pocket Network, right? Our sponsor for the show. Cronier's Credit Bureau, Block Bureau, another project that needs to kind of like explain to people what the fuck this does. Does that make sense? Like that needs to be a product people start making. And it's like, it needs to have this kind of train of concepts so people can understand how it can benefit them. Does that make sense, everybody? I can probably think of others. DopeX, also known as Strike, like other DeFi platforms that like, they fizzle because, again, they fizzle for the same reason that we fucking struggle with marketing in 2024. Like, you know, their shit's complicated as fuck and they stay, my friend Ian, he calls it founder brain. He says, when you have founder brain, you just sound like an absolute alien to everybody. And I'm like, damn. He called me out so succinctly. Anyways, do you guys have any more questions? Yeah. Oh, I guess Trump blames Powell for any downturn. I guess the Wall Street Journal is stirring up drama between Trump and Powell. Whatever. He's like, Powell's going to slash interest rates before the election, but he won't do it now. And like, okay, I don't know. Like, whatever. That just sounds like a narrative. Although I do believe that it did seem like Powell was slashing rates extra hard before the election. I don't know why. I do believe, I kind of agree with that. Like, that's interesting he did that. That's also something that I wouldn't have done. So I kind of keep score of like the stuff Powell does and whether or not I would have done it the same. Like if I was the Fed chair. Honestly, who fucking knows? Yeah, but arguably, yeah. But you know what? Arguably, I think he's not a puppet. Like that's the thing. Like there's a couple things he's done where it seems he got swayed, and one of them was under Trump when he slashed everything to zero. He's like, you know what? COVID, we gotta slash everything to zero. And he's like, okay, this is an emergency. Then like this last election, he's like, I'm gonna slash 50 points instead of 25. At the same time, that's not nearly enough to make a fucking difference. Does that make sense? Like just the idea of slashing is gonna get the market to do this. Do you know what I mean? So like whether he does 50 or whether he does 25, I think that's like theatrics, but he's not that guy. He's not, Jerome Powell is not Mr. Beast. Does that make sense? Yeah. Do you guys know what I mean? Like, it's like, you know, he literally has to go up there, like, good afternoon, as stoically as possible, say that, like, you know, upon further analysis of the numbers, you know, we've been moving over the, you know, like, literally just talk exactly like that, and then say 50 points, 25 points, you know, just exactly that. So then everybody, you know, they're all on the edge of the seats, and then they fucking, okay. Do you guys want to talk about anything else? If not, like, I just want to finish. You guys can see the fucking face angles are fucking done. I gotta mirror them, then upscale them. I'm gonna get the body angles cropped, mirror, then upscaled. Then legitimately, all I have to do then is fucking face expressions. I'm gonna fucking skip body poses, to be honest. I'm gonna skip them. Because I can prompt for them. And if whatever, most of the content that I have to do for Fergus, I can make Fergus do that pose like custom later on. Does that make sense? So most of the things that Fergus has to do, most of it is just like walking Okay, fuck it. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, don't worry. Like I promise you, this machine we're building here for marketing is better than anything else better than any other marketing you see in Web3. Right? We have to do something different and fucking get ahead of the curve and not fucking catch up to what's the fad. Okay? Anyways, okay. No more questions? Yeah. And again, by the way, like us being able to use this protagonist and run a story with him, it allows us to how would I describe this? This protagonist is always like an asset of the project. Does that make sense? So like the story of this protagonist and how people like him or whether they do or they don't, that's always part of now the value add of our tokens. Does that make sense to you guys? So like we raise the value of our tokens in the human mind just from having this story associated with the project. Do you guys get that? Do you guys understand that? Mr. Beast sells fucking chocolate. Does that make sense to you guys? Do you guys know what I'm talking about? So the fact that the chocolate that Mr. Beast sells, it has a story behind it along with a protagonist that increases the value of the chocolate itself in human minds. Does that make sense to you guys? Okay, well, thanks for coming to the PYRESWAP show. We'll end it here, I guess. Yeah, there's no more questions. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.